itself. Here's the ranunculales broken down. And here, again, because the Berberidacea and the ranunculacea are so closely botanically related to each other, I've put a little node here so that the user can click on this to more easily limit to these two families combined. So they don't have to go through picking one and picking the other. They can just pick this and get them both combined.
When I click on ranunculales, I take all the family?
Yeah, if you were to click on the ranunculales here, you'd get everything.
Okay, I take all.
Exactly. Or you could have done that on the diagram just above this, which would have been the unclassified core eudicots. You'd see ranunculales as a bubble.
Okay.
So you could have selected it there, or you could go down to this diagram and say, do I want to look at a family within it, or do I want to just take that whole order? So you could take it either from the illustration before or from this one.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. And here, again, the best known of the ranunculales here, the ranunculacid aconite in the background. What I would love is input from all of you about these, because obviously this is a beginning place for this, and this project will grow over time. So I'd love to know ways to improve this for the next generation of this. You know, I think obviously at some point we're going to revisit this and make changes. Now, one of the things for languages we've been careful to do is use the Latin names, the accepted, internationally accepted Latin names for these families, with a very few exceptions that up here, for example, we have kingdoms, plants, core, eudicots. Yeah, the top bars will walk you back. These are essentially breadcrumb trails. So you can go back to where you were. So to go, if you come down to the asparagales and you say, well, I guess I don't want all this, I want to go back up a level, you can click on the monocots and go back to that illustration, or back to plants and go to the major plant illustration, or kingdoms and come to the entry illustration. So there are ways of easily backing up through the hierarchy of illustrations here. Now, some of the families, like the ranunculacea, is a very large and complex family. So in a few places where I thought it was interesting botanically, I broke these down further. So this is one of the places where we go down below the family level, and we broke the ranunculacea down into subfamilies and tribes here. Okay, so here's some subfamilies, here's some tribes of this subfamily. And I did this in places where we had a number of remedies within this group that were interesting. So within the ranunculacea, it's interesting to look at the Helleborhiae perhaps as separate from the Anemoneanae. Just to add levels, to anticipate levels of complexity that more botanically oriented practitioners might be interested in. Now, for two reasons, we made a separate illustration for Rashan Sankaran's plant families. One of the reasons is that his families don't correspond to the modern botanical classifications, and there are many places where you just cannot reconcile his groupings into families with contemporary botanical families. So we've made a separate illustration. The other is that we wanted everything on one illustration for the Sankaran families, and since he only has about 30, we were able to do that. Also, Sankaran considers the fungi within the plants, and they aren't there in our more scientifically oriented scheme. So on Hila's illustration here, we've added the fungi as a, quote, plant, unquote, family here. And then we've kept the gymnosperms, the basal angiosperms, and the monocots separate, but all of the eudicots, instead of breaking this down further into a botanically oriented classification, which we thought would be confusing to the Sankaran-oriented user, we just listed all the eudicots in alphabetical order here, so that they're easy for them to find on this rather complex illustration, rather than try to organize them by botanical affiliation and make this very difficult for a user to find information. The carnivorous plants are a polyphyletic group. The members of this, quote, family that Sankaran uses are not necessarily botanically related to each other, so we've set it aside here out of the main illustration. Okay. We've also included links here to information about Sankaran's plant family work and a link to the miasms diagram, so that again, the Sankaran-oriented user can come in here, pick their plant family, and then go to the miasms family to pick a miasm and look at the cross between these. This is the Sankaran miasms flowchart, and this is basically the inspired by the illustration in his schema here. And again, here one can do the same thing and click or right-click on one of these miasms and limit the analysis. And again, here this is set up so that you can pick a plant family, click on miasms, go to miasms, pick a miasm, and do what the Sankaran-esque user does. This is the main illustration to the animal phyla. Again, here I kind of use this, instead of the spiral diagram for the plants, I kind of use this march of progress for the animals because, again, it's the way the homeopathic user is led to think of these things. Here's the arthropods broken down. So again, on that illustration, if one clicked on the arthropoda, you go to this illustration, on the arachnids, to the arachnids broken down into groups, and on the Araneomorphae to the spiders. And here again, because the spiders are a very interesting group for homeopaths, I broke it down into the subgroups of different families of spiders so that that was easier to work with. The color schemes here are really to illustrate those groups that users would be interested in clicking on. The white groups are either empty or not really an interesting group to click on, okay? If one's interested, for example, in this family, they're probably not going to be interested in clicking on the superfamily, but directly on this instead. So we made the colors to draw users in to emphasize where it might be interesting to click to limit or highlight groups. Coming back to the phyla here, if we click on the chordates, here are the chordates, the backboned animals. And if we click on birds, we made the bird phylogenetic tree with the image of a wing, just for aesthetics here. Okay. Here are the snakes, or the reptiles rather, broken down, and we've divided it up. So these are the non-snake reptiles, these are the snakes, and the snakes are divided into the taxonomically into those groups which tend not to be poisonous and those which tend to be venomous, breaking these down. This is the periodic table of elements. So again, this is the scheme that's in widespread use by homeopaths, where a couple of these groups are changed around. And there's links here to the spiral table as well. And this is set up so that you can click to restrict to any column or any row or both, or on any particular element to restrict. And this is the spiral version of the table that a lot of folks are using. And again, you can go back and forth between those two views of the periodic table quite easily. So that's it.